A very good day to you. Welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadel Cabrera, ready for a political conversation, a conversation that we hope will help our leaders make better policy decisions and inform political moves. These conversations, of course, are very simple, truthful and biased. With Herman Manyora here, how are you doing today?
Fine.
I want to talk a little bit about Azimio in today's conversation. Raila Odinga says he's not going anywhere, but of course we are seeing a little bit of some disunity and discord in Azimio La Umoja, of course coming from Jeremiah Kioni, Azimio spokesperson, urging him to resign from Boma stocks. Raila says, let's give this Boma stocks some time. Does he make sense for you? Jeremiah Kioni says, look, it's been long overdue. These conversations are not heading anywhere and they will not help this country.
I said Bomas was just a joke. Actually a fraud on the people of Kenya. That's what I've said repeatedly.
So do you then agree with
Kioni?
Not Kioni, but the spokesperson Makau Mutua telling him, well, resign if you do not agree with them. Is this the honorable thing to do instead of talking out in public and coming out and engaging in these talks?
But you see, to be fair to Kioni, by the time somebody comes out to talk, a lot of boardroom talk would have either failed to take place or to reach some agreement. So either Raila doesn't give them a chance, or whenever they meet, nothing comes out of their meeting. So somebody goes public. Okay. Yeah.
So does this show that there is something wrong in Azimio La Umoja, because you are looking at Kioni on one side with Martha Karua, of course forming their own faction, they're calling it Kamuene Leadership Forum, saying it's not in Kenya Kwanza, not necessarily an Azimio thing.
Yes.
What is happening though?
You see, I think the problem we have with in this game, and I've said this repeatedly, there are two problems, actually maybe three or four. The problem surrounding Azimio and Raila Odinga is, one, the absence of structures. Yeah, it affected their campaign, 2013, 2017, 2022. Raila does not operate with structures. So that way, when you don't have structures, an engagement is very difficult. So you cannot blame Kioni and Martha Karua. You cannot have constructive engagement in the absence of some formal arrangement, some structure. So if it is everything is Raila himself, it will be very difficult, to be very honest and fair to these people. The second problem that might make somebody get pissed off, even Jeremiah Kioni, Martha Karua, on top of Raila being the sole decider of things because of the absence of structure. Any attempt Raila and Azimio make to get people to put something together, they always go for the wrong people. No, they always go for the wrong people. Anytime they have had campaign, the so-called advisors or people next to Raila have always been people who have never been useful. He put the same team together during BBI. They were not useful.
Okay.
The same people around him when he was doing the elections, they were not useful. They have not delivered.
This time around,
the same time your talks are there, they are engaged, Bomas is going on, you see the same characters around Raila. And they are proved they are useless. You know, you must bite the bullet and accept that I have worked with this team of people and they have not gotten results. You look for different people. The same suspects around him are the same people. They never change. And they are not useful anyway. How can you walk into this stupid trap unless Raila had like I was just in jest saying, maybe they have a deal with Ruto. If indeed this was a serious thing, Raila was entering into, and there's nothing behind, this is everything there is. It leaves a lot to be desired.
Okay.
How can you engage in that manner?
It's almost 60 days of these talks. Raila, of course, says, let's give these talks a chance. What should the opposition do now? Because we are looking at the cost of living going high.
There's nothing they can do.
What should the opposition
There is nothing the opposition can do. It is too, I fear it is too late. What can they do now? How could they walk into Bomas? Under such arrangements? How? Then money is dangled at them and they quickly rush to parliament. So that parliament may sponsor these talks. People may get allowances. Munaingia kwa nyumba imefungwa kok. What are they saying now? Let them remain in that house. Because the moment you went to parliament, you finished yourself. Because under the auspices of parliament, under the law, the main issues you wanted to discuss cannot be discussed.
Okay.
Because number one is to engage on whether or not Ruto won the election, the legitimacy of this government. That you cannot do when you are working under the law, under parliament. You can't. That is an impeachment that had been removed from the institutions created by the law to an impeachment in the streets. Because you cannot discuss Ruto's victory beyond the Supreme Court.
They want to know, is there an opposition now for the people, and what is the impact of the absence, if there is not, on the lives of Kenyans?
There's no opposition. We are only lucky because Raila, against all odds, can assemble an army of followers to go to war, which is the streets. Because this guy has a magic, but if it is another human being, you can't. Because people have given up even. People have no faith in the bombers, people have no faith in what's going on. So, but I would not be surprised if Raila puts people together back and they go to the streets. This is not a normal man. When I tell people this is a spirit, they think I'm joking. This is not a human being.
So even if you're looking at a situation where we don't see the opposition, we still have the hope that
Raila can assemble people. You're going to find 100,000 in the streets.
But the trouble is, the big question is, he hasn't been there for the past like 60 days.
Yes.
What is the guarantee?
You know, Raila can just spring. First of all, he can spring and get the people. But he can also come up with something. You know, Raila can create anything. This is a guy who is not a human being.
But then this is, of course, with the belief that there is no deal. But if there is...
If there's a deal, then we are just being taken in circles. The more likely thing there's a deal between Ruto and Raila, the more likely
What
thing.
is the place then of the people? Or should we expect now civil societies to come up?
I've also warned them in response to what you want to ask, even before you ask it. I've warned them. The day people spill into the streets without being asked to go there by Raila, it will be the end of this country. It will be the end of the country. Yeah. It will be the end of this country. The day people go, now Raila is not involved, at the end of this country.
Looking though at history and looking at other leaders, can you give examples of places where there is no leader and people still turn up to go out and protest? Is that something that can happen without a leader on top of the people?
In most recent history, there was Sudan. And there was this lady who I can't remember the name, taking the lead in the demonstrations that brought down Nani's government. What was his name? Bashir's government. Yeah, it was almost simultaneous. There was Sri Lanka recently. You saw people going to the palace, the State House, swimming in the president's swimming pool. Who organized them? There were things in Hong Kong. Who did you see anybody organizing them?
People just go out.
Yeah, out. And for us, if it happens that way, then we are finished. It could turn ugly, extremely ugly.
Okay.
And it will be very bad.
Then tell me about, we've discussed.
That's why I want to tell people, thank Raila Odinga. Thank Raila Odinga for harnessing the anger. When people are angry, they are willing to die. If you saw in Uhuru Park, maybe you are not there. 2018. The most famous one of the man who said, when I came here, I knew I could die. Nimepanga mambo yangu. Niko na wasichana watatu na bibi, nimegawa mali yangu. Nimekuja kufa. Those kind of people in Kenya, when it comes to anger, are there.
Now, you look at Rigathi Gachagua, of course, when he came back, he has been telling his CSs and people in government to spread hope. Is this something that will work, just telling their people, you don't communicate the way you have been? Is this the right move for starters?
No. What is happening in this country is that things have reached a point where, unless they see some action, Kenyans are unlikely to believe anybody. Some blood must be shed.
You've said that before.
I've said it repeatedly, and you'll see it. Unless the president takes action that can convince Kenyans he's serious, you may soon find yourself in big trouble. It doesn't have to be Raila. We are thankful that Raila is around to control the masses and tell them, go back, we shall meet next week.
Okay. Yeah. For how long, though, will that work? Raila controlling masses. This is what he has been doing since time immemorial, in Kibaki, in Uhuru, now in Ruto's time.
But you see, he's a human being. You can also get annoyed and go home to fish. He can get tired. He's an old man.
Okay.
He can decide to work with Ruto. So what? Ruto amwambia mzee, kubali imeisha, kaa na mimi hapa. I'll take care of Kanini and the rest. Yeah, he's a human being. I mean, why do we think Raila is maybe a spirit? But even Jesus, what did he say? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we come back to Azimio then and we ask ourselves, what should they do to form this opposition that is ready to take its role?
It can't. They cannot. They are weakened. Because I was giving you the problem with Raila's and Azimio. Structure, wrong people, wrong advisors, no structures, wrong advisors. The third one is resources. They go to war without resources. How can you send an army into a war without resources?
But Rigathi Nyoro have been saying Uhuru has been sponsoring
Nothing. If they had money, they can mess this country. Yeah. You don't need more than a billion. And I keep warning these people in government. Some crazy man will come and sponsor these riots. You don't need more than $1 billion shillings. $1 billion shillings is too much. And I've been warning the government because I know what is going on. I understand this country. I understand the tribal nature of this country.
So you don't believe
I understand how weak even our security forces are. Yeah, these security forces, they can be overrun. So if a man put 20 million kwa vijana hapa Kawangware, these policemen will be overrun. Yes, these vehicles will all be burnt.
Okay.
So let's not allow ourselves to get there. What I wanted to say is this. You are asking me about those countries.
Yes.
And there are many. I could go on and on and on. One observable thing which every serious government, especially using the intelligence, must know is this. All these countries that have gone down through mass action, through civil unrest, even through coups, have one common denominator: a restless society. When you have an army of people in a country who are angry and hungry, all you need is a small spark and the country is on fire. It is rare. It is rare that people program until finally people are in the streets. It never works like that. All you need is an environment in which people are angry and hungry. And then something small happened. In Tunisia, it was that young man who doused himself in petrol and set himself on fire. And it set off what came to be known as the Arab Springs. That so many countries go down, governments go down in the Arab world. You get it?
Yeah.
If you look everywhere, like when we were having these mandamanos, around that period, there was looting in a supermarket in Eldoret. It had nothing to do with Raila and Azimio. It was the county government askaris handling the chokoras, street boys and the hawkers. And there was some scuffle in town. And there was raiding of a supermarket. It starts like that.
Okay.
Something like that can set the country on fire. Another town can take you. Another town, there's no order. That's why for any intelligence of a country, they are always very careful about the pulse of the nation. Is this country sitting pretty? Is the country sitting well? The intelligence should have told President Ruto that we now live in a country where almost 50% of the people can even sacrifice their lives to die because they are already dead anyway.
Of course, we saw the number of people going to look for, army jobs.
350 positions, an army of people, thousands of people, young men. Wanatafuta nafasi ngapi? 300. And you can still think it's anything.
So what's your advice, though, before we go back to opposition, what's your advice to Ruto's side? Because they have been speaking the way they want to.
Low-lying fruit, show Kenyans you feel them. Because the country is so tensed. There's so much anger, you may not see it. But when you go to restaurants, in matatus, that's what everybody is talking about. The pain of living in Kenya. It's even a global problem. But there's the pain of living in this country. And the continuous onslaught on the working pay slip. So people should tell Ruto, go slow on taxes. In fact, reverse some taxes. But before that, show Kenyans you feel them. And I've said the first thing to do, get rid of this cabinet. That move alone of removing this cabinet will make Kenya sit back and say, this guy is serious. There's some hope. You'll create hope. And then look at the cost of living. There are some things that the government can do one morning in State House. You call MPs and tell them we are going to remove levies on petrol. Government gets about 50% every time you buy petrol. Half of the money you pay goes to government. All those levies, there are about 9 of them. You ask them, what are they doing?
Okay.
Railway development levy, I didn't even know there was something like that.
Yeah.
CGE YDF, CGE road development, CGE road levy.
Yeah.
You collect billions of shillings from motorists who are fueling in taxes called road development levy. Then you distribute that money and give it to county governors. Atuwatengeneze barabara. Barabara gani?
So you go back to opposition, we have this Kabwene faction, Martha Karua and Jeremiah Kioni. Do you think this will be one of the reasons for Azimio to split? Of course, for people that are thinking, look,
splits are obvious.
We cannot continue working this way.
Splits are obvious. I've given you why. There are no structures. Raila is a one-man army. There are no resources. People are hungry. They are being bought left, right. Well, why would there be no splits? There will be splits. ODM will remain alone. And even within ODM, there will be further splits. This is a war. I have told them even many times. This is a war which you must approach as a science. Otherwise, Ruto will maul you in 2027. Atapita na nyinyi kama risasi.
All right, maybe good place to wrap up. Thank you for tuning in. That's been our conversation on the opposition Azimio la Umoja coalition. Until we do talk again, have yourself a lovely rest of your day.